This meeting is being recorded.
This is Gary.
Hey,
Uh-oh.
how's it going? Let's see. Where are we?
I think this is, I
I
think this is
You're
you.
here. I'm here.
You sure you're not right? Oh, wow, how are you?
One over. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Let's see, we both got the seersucker memo.
Yeah. Oh, how about that? And the real one too.
Yeah.
All right. So I say again. Okay. Thanks. Yeah, these are the glasses I left here the last time. So even though it's red, it's live. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Get my wits about me. And thank you for attending this evening's board meeting. This is a special meeting of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022, for the purpose of hearing public comments on the CMHA significant amendment changes. The meeting is now called to order. Roll call for attendance. Ms. Mitchell,
Present.
Mr. Weedman,
Present.
Ms. Pelly,
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
The chair is present. We have a quorum. Agenda item number 3 is the public comments on significant amendment changes. 2022-2023 Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan and 2022-2023 Admissions and Continued Occupancy Policy. During the comment period required by HUD, CMHA accepted written recommendations from the public on these significant amendment changes. A copy of the summary with the comments and CMHA's responses was sent to the individuals that submitted comments. At this time, the floor is open for public comments on the significant amendment changes. The board will hear comments only about the significant amendment changes at this time. We have 3 requests to speak before the board virtually. I will call each of these speakers one at a time. When you are recognized, please state your name and speak directly to the board. Thank you. Our first guest speaker is Ms. Ashley Feist. Is Ms. Feist connected?
Hello,
Hi, welcome.
thank you. Just let me know when the clock starts, so to speak.
Feel free to proceed. You've got our undivided attention.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you again for having me tonight. My name is Ashley Feist. I'm both a member of the Cincinnati community and a landlord and a member of Cincinnati Socialists. And my concerns today are twofold. First, I will speak to my experience as a landlord. The changes to me don't appear to address the issues that keep landlords from taking vouchers in the first place. And I do appreciate and understand that the landlord can now, through this mitigation program, apply for these funds above and beyond the deposit, and then, not follow any legal action on that tenant afterwards. And I think that that is great. I do get concerned that this does not address the core issue of less tenants or getting new people in those tenants. Secondly, more as a community member and a sister and daughter, my comments and questions today in respect to the proposed policy come from kind of that experience. So I'm having a hard time understanding kind of how these really serve the tenants in particular. So I understand that the non-emergency transfers creates an expedited process for disabled tenants, but in the same breath, the stated issue is a reduction of units. It seems we're merely exchanging symptoms of that issue for one that is more publicly convenient for the CMHA. While I appreciate the help for disabled tenants, there is little to no positive for the community as a whole, as families must be displaced within 3 days, no less, to accommodate the issue of low inventory. So we need policies that are going to address the core issue, because by treating that symptom, we're merely prioritizing who becomes a victim of housing accessibility. It supplants more responsibility to facilitate this process on the tenants than landlords, and can actually pit community members against one another. So we can do a little bit better, although I appreciate the changes, and thank you for your time.
You're most welcome, and rest assured that the board has heard your concerns, and staff will, and by extension, it is hearing them as well. Thank you. Any comments by the board? Hearing none, let's move on to our next speaker, Ms. Kelsey Hoffman. Kelsey, are you with us?
Yes, I am with you. It's actually Mix Hoffman. I do not use feminine gender pronouns, but thank you.
I'm sorry, what you would prefer to be called what, please?
Mix, ultimately, first name Kelsey is fine, just not Ms.
Oh, I beg your pardon. Okay, Kelsey, you have our undivided attention.
Great, thank you very much. I appreciate everybody's time this evening. My name is Kelsey Hoffman. I am here as a community member with Cincinnati Socialists and somebody who also has people in their life who rely on CMHA for access to housing. I understand that the scope of this meeting is to address the proposed changes to the asset management admission and continued occupancy policy and lease agreement and the HCV plan. But I would like to make a more general comment about the inaccessibility of these proposed changes to those who are reliant on CMHA services. The proposed changes were difficult to find on the website. They were hard to understand and place into context. And I personally know folks who are concerned and confused about the impact that these changes have on them and their access to housing. The CMHA vision statement to shape our future by utilizing sustainable funding models to develop quality housing solutions in partnership with our community stakeholders doesn't directly speak to the tenants and the program participants that it serves, but instead to community stakeholders. If community stakeholders include those who are served by CMHA and its programs, I'm concerned that these changes were not made more accessible to those individuals. A partnership with community stakeholders, presumably including those tenants, would ideally involve clear and open communication with feedback actively solicited from those impacted by these changes, with simple and open channels of communication for those tenants to respond with their questions, concerns, and policy suggestions. Ultimately, it's not entirely clear to me how those tenants are being served by these proposed changes in the midst of our city's affordable housing deficit. And I posit that it is unclear to many of those reliant on CMHA services as well. I believe that the communication of these policy changes, CMHA's gold performance standard is not meeting the needs of those tenants or those program participants. And again, pose the question rhetorically, who are these policy changes serving? Thank you very much for your time.
You're most welcome, Kelsey, please.
Yeah, can I ask you a question? Did you say you're a member of, what would you say you're a member of? Cincinnati Socialists?
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you again, Kelsey. The board has heard your concerns. Now we'll move on to our third speaker, Mr. Mason Urban. Is Mr. Urban with us?
Yes, I am.
Hi, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us. Again, my name is Mason Urban. I'm a member of the Cincinnati community as well as another member of Cincinnati Socialists. And I think it's clear by the fact that we are the only three speaking virtually from the same group is that it is extraordinarily difficult for people of the Cincinnati community to have access to this space. I think you can do a whole lot more to announce that you are having these type of meetings, like have an announcement on your announcements page would be a good step. Having a form that you can fill out on the website as opposed to needing to download Adobe PDF viewer in order to send a form back to ask to speak on this forum, which you claim is public, but being so prohibitively tough to get to indicates to me that you're not really asking for public input, aren't interested in hearing what the members of this community have to say, because it is so tough to not only find the availability to sign up, but then the limited scope that these changes are over were not indicated on the calendar page. There was no indication. We had to go to the annual report page on your website in order to get to these documents, which I don't believe is specifically this meeting. I don't believe is over an annual report. I think this is, or at least in my mind, should be a more frequent thing than once a year when you're accepting public input on your systems. And I will also posit the same question that Kelsey has given is, who are these changes serving if it's not the community? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Again, you can rest assured that the board has heard your concerns. That concludes our speakers. Are there any other speakers to come before the board pertaining to significant amendment changes? Okay, so if there's no other business to come before the board, may I have a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A second? A
Second.
second, great. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell? Mr. Weedman?
Aye.
Ms. Pelly?
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the meeting is adjourned. Now, this is the contemporaneous meeting for instrumentalities that do not have any new business or matters requiring deliberation for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. The meetings of the following instrumentalities: Laurel Homes 1, Lincoln View Incorporated, Reserve on South Martin, Southwest Ohio Housing Development Incorporated, Cary Crossing Development Corporation, West Union Square Development Corporation, Sutter View Development Corporation, Pinecrest Rad Development Corporation, Park Eden Evanston LLC, Park Eden Apartments Development Corporation, Mariana Terrace Development Corporation, Bennett Point Development Corporation, Logan Commons LLC, Horizon Hills LLC, Beechwood Rad Development Corporation, and Maple Tower Rad Development Corporation are hereby called to order. Roll call for attendance. Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Weedman.
Present.
Ms. Pelly.
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
And the chair is present. We have a quorum. Commissioners, have you reviewed the June 28, 2022 minutes for these instrumentalities? And are there any corrections? Hearing none. Is there-
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
A second, great. And now roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Abstain.
All right, and the chair votes aye. The motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call on the motion. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Weedman. Thank you. Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The meeting is adjourned. And moving on to the next instrumentality, Touchstone Property Services Incorporated. This is the regular meeting of Touchdown Property Services Incorporated for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. The meeting is called to order. Roll call for attendance. Ms. Mitchell.
Present.
Mr. Weedman.
Present.
Ms. Pelly.
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
The chair is present. We have a quorum. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. Is there-
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any corrections? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman. Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Abstain.
Thank you. And the chair votes aye. The motion passes. Item 4 is discussion of recommendations, resolution 205, approving the financial report for the month of June 2022 with collection losses.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions from any board members? Hearing none, roll call for the resolution. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
and the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Now, resolution 206 to approve the financial statements for Hamilton County Affordable Housing, Springdale Senior Limited Partnership, DBA Baldwin Grove, the Reserve on South Martin, Cary Crossing, West Union Square, Sutter View, Evanston, Pinecrest, Park Eden Apartments, City West Retail, and Touchdown Property Services for the 6 months ending June 30th, 2022.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell,
Aye.
the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 207, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer of Touchdown Property Services to sign the first one-year contract extension option for contract TP 21-1007 HVAC maintenance and repair services with Blau Mechanical Incorporated in a not to exceed amount of $200,000 annually for a maximum 5-year contract, not to exceed the budgeted amount paid for by operating funds.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you much. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Resolution 208, authorizing the Chief Executive Officer of Touchdown Property Services to negotiate and enter into contracts for solicitation TP 22-1015 janitorial services with Amazing Labor Group LLC, Crosty Renovation Services LLC, Diamond Professional Contractors LLC, Fancy Structure Construction LLC, Care and Cleaning Services LLC, Key Cleaning Services, I beg your pardon, Solutions LLC, Pleasant Contracting Services LLC, Duchess Dynasty LLC, doing business as Royalty Janitorial Services, SRB All Occasions LLC, Ultimate Professionals LLC, and Your Family Made LLC in a not to exceed amount of $300,000 annually pool, I should say, per the pool of contractors or the board approved budget for a maximum 5-year contract funded by operating funds.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions?
So I assume that this is 300,000 for the entire group and not individually, correct?
Let's see, board secretary is,
Janelle, do you want to go ahead and answer that?
Yeah, you're correct. It's across the entire pool.
Okay, thank you.
any other questions? Hearing none, a roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 209, granting approval for the Chief Executive Officer of Touchdown Property Services to execute contracts, official HUD documents, and required investor documents with dates preceding the next available board meeting, in addition to emergency documents that affect the safety of all of employees, residents, TPS property, and the community at large. All such actions shall be presented to the board at the immediate subsequent board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Thank you. Questions?
Second. I'm sorry, was it seconded? I didn't hear
It was.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right. It's nothing like 2 seconds. Roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
and Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. During June and July of 2022, fiscal year 2022, TPS entered into 2 non-construction contracts with not to exceed maximum amounts below $100,000. Per Resolution 174, approved January 25th, 2022, the CEO has authorization to execute and sign contracts in an amount not to exceed $100,000.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I just would like to make a suggestion regarding the statement that in the future that the staff list those contracts and the amounts. So there are 2 contracts. I just would like to know who they were with and what the amount was.
Janelle, those contracts were put in the enclosure, correct?
Yes, they are in an enclosure.
They're in
Okay.
enclosure number 7, Mr. O'Donnell. So they're there for a few reasons, but just like you said, so you'll know who they are and then what the amounts are. So they were in your board packet enclosure number 7.
Okay.
would you
I
like
would-
them to be in
I would suggest they be
The amendment?
in the statement here in
or
the,
in the statement?
this is
easy
not
enough to
actually
do.
a resolution, but as part of this statement.
Okay, just somebody help me parliamentary. Is it fine for that just to be a statement? Does the board need to vote on that?
They don't-
No, I think that's
did
a
not
fine. I think he brought, Mr. O'Donnell brought it up before, and that's when we started the enclosure and sent that out. So it doesn't have to be a resolution passed by the board. It's a request. We can execute the request. Some of those statements will get pretty long sometimes, but no problem. We'll put it, we'll do the enclosure and we'll also put it in a statement as well.
Great, thank you.
Okay, and let's see, I
We
believe
do have a motion.
we have a motion. Do we have now we have a second. And any questions on the motion to adjourn? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Touchstone Property Services Incorporated meeting is closed. Now, we move on to the regular board meeting of the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority for Tuesday, August 23rd, 2022. The meeting is now called to order. Roll call for attendance, Ms. Mitchell,
Present.
Mr. Weedman.
Present.
Ms. Pelly,
Present.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Present.
The chair is present. We have a quorum. Item 3 is approval of the minutes. from-
Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any corrections? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Abstain.
All righty. And the motion passes, including the chair's vote, aye. Was that? Okay. I'm overstepping. It's just too exciting an agenda tonight. That's just humor. I don't want anybody to feel as though they're not appreciated. Item 4 is discussion of secretary recommendations. 4A, the financial report. I'd like to ask that we consider resolutions 5717 and 5718 together. Are there any objections? Okay, great. I'll read each resolution and we'll vote on these resolutions at the conclusion. Resolution 5717, approving the bad debt write-offs for June 2022. Resolution 5718, approving the fiscal year 2022, June 2022 financial statements for the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman, Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Item 4B is request for approval to solicit bids for the following items. Resolution 5731, providing authorization to proceed with the solicitation of bids for development of 66 vacant lots at City West in the single-family homes.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. Item 4C is resolutions to award contract renewals. Excuse me. Resolution 5719, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to sign the second one-year contract extension option for contract 2020-4003. Development partners for projects located in Hamilton County, Ohio, with Gorman and Company LLC, Penrose LLC, Urban Sites Construction LLC, and Walla Kendi Development Company for a maximum 5-year contract not to exceed the board-approved budget paid for by development funds.
Motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Item 4D is adopt a resolution to award the following construction contracts. There are no new construction contracts over $100,000 this month. And per our resolution 5587 approved August 31st, 2021, the CEO has the authorization to execute and sign contracts in an amount not to exceed $100,000. There were 3 such construction contracts below $100,000 in June and July. Item 4E is
Mr.
adopt.
Chairman, I
Yes,
would
please.
just suggest we do the same thing here that we just discussed.
Yeah, we'll
Touched
make sure that I'll make sure that they're in there. So Janelle, can you just make sure you add that and take your enclosure and send it to Gary and Nick, make sure he adds it on the agenda for Touchstone and CMHA.
Thank you.
All righty. Moving on, item 4E is adopt a resolution general, resolution 5720, amending the Cincinnati Metropolitan Housing Authority's admissions and continuing occupancy policy to set a 20-year limit on enforcing prior debts owed to the agency.
Motion.
Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from board members on this resolution? Hearing none. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolution passes. I'd like to ask that we consider resolutions 5721 and 5722 together. Are there any objections? Okay, great. I'll read each resolution. We'll vote on these resolutions at the conclusion. Resolution 5721, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into contracts for solicitation 2022-1011. Recertifications for asset management and housing choice voucher with Gilson Software Solutions, PHA, LLC, and Nan McKay and Associates Incorporated in a not to exceed amount of $290,000 annually in asset management operational funds and $364,000 annually in administrative fees for a maximum 5-year contract or the board approved budget. Resolution 5722, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into contracts for solicitation 2022-1018. Security guard services with Vets Securing America Incorporated, Gracie's Environmental Services LLC, and BWH Security LLC in a not to exceed amount of $380,000 annually per the pool of contractors or the board approved budget for a maximum 5-year contract funded by operational funds.
Motion to approve 5721, 5722.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The resolutions pass. The resolutions passed. Resolution 5723, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into contracts for solicitation 2022-4001. General engineering services with the Manic and Smith Group Incorporated, ECS Midwest LLC, GJ Birding Surveying Incorporated, Value Tech Incorporated, DBA VT Design Solutions, and 2RS Consulting LLC in a not to exceed amount of $150,000 annually per contractor or the board approved budget for a maximum 5-year contract funded by capital grants and development funds.
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 5724, authorizing the CEO of CMHA to negotiate and enter into contracts for solicitation 2022-4002. Architectural services for 9% low-income housing tax credits with Berardi and Partners Incorporated, LDA Architects Incorporated, Meacham and Appel Architects Incorporated, and RE Warner and Associates Incorporated, in a not to exceed amount of $600,000 annually per contractor or the board approved budget for a maximum 5-year contract paid for by LIHTC and other development funds, loans, and or grants.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell. Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And chair votes aye, the resolution passes. I'd like to ask that we consider resolutions 5725, 5726, and 5727 together. Any objections? Great. Resolution 5725, reapproving the authority of the CEO of the CMHA to authorize and sign time extension and change orders to contracts not to exceed 20% of the initial contract amount. Resolution 5726, reapproving authorization of CEO of the CMHA to execute and sign contracts in an amount not to exceed $100,000. Resolution 5727, reapproving authorization of CEO of CMHA to enter into cooperative purchasing agreements with vendors and contractors in compliance with 2 CFR 200.318 in parentheses small e as a means to implement bulk purchasing and provide efficiencies and cost savings to the authority.
Motion to approve 5725, 5726, 5727.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. Any questions?
Question, Mr.
Please.
Chairman. On 5725 and 5726, I'm wondering if we could add the language that's at the end of 5728, that all actions shall be presented to the board in the immediate subsequent board meeting, something to that effect, so that aren't we doing that now, or are we doing that now? Where these authorizations and signed contracts are presented to the board, or what are we doing?
No. So if you're giving me the authorization to sign the contracts, what's presented at the next immediate board meeting, if it's a contract that doesn't come before the board. So such as if there's an emergency that I need to get someone to do something on site or something like that, and then we'll bring that contract immediately to the board. These 3 resolutions allow us to, with small amounts, allow us to continue to do business, such as some of our development projects, construction. We have to wait until the next available board meeting if we can't continue to move forward on 25 and 26. So we don't bring those back to the board, but the other items, yes, we do bring back to the board. Now, what we do, which you just asked on 25 and 26, we give you a list of any of those that I signed and the amounts, and we put those in your enclosure. And then we also let you know whether I signed something or not.
Okay.
So it comes back, it doesn't come back for approval because you're giving me approval,
Right.
but it
Mhm.
does come back to you so you can see what the amount is and who the vendor is. And
That's
then you
really-
just, wanted me to make sure that it goes into,
Right.
in the readings for that Mr. Miles reads.
Yes, it's informational, correct, as opposed to authorizing.
Yeah.
So
Correct.
I understand. I think that's
So-
exactly
so-
what I was looking for.
So just to be clear, does it suffice that it's
Yes.
in our board packet?
I think so.
Or do you want it to be in the?
I think it's okay.
Agenda.
It's in the board packet.
Okay. Okay, great. Very good. And thank you, Mr. Secretary.
Can I just ask one other question on
Sure.
5725, where it says authority to authorize and sign time extension and change orders to contracts not to exceed 20% of the initial contract amount. So give me a good example. Would that be something like change orders that were part of the system? Okay.
Correct.
Yep. Gotcha.
And also another question about that is that some of these contracts are very large. If that 20% is more than $100,000, does that fall under the other provision?
No, the other provision is for contracts that are just starting off. And so what it does, it limits how much that I can approve on one contract. What does happen is on the previous ones, like if there is a large one, you're approving a development deal. So if we're doing new construction, you're approving a development deal, you're approving the price to the development deal. And all of those things are broken out as far as the legal fees and the construction costs and things like that. The not to exceed 20% is something we put in place there again for efficiencies, because construction, if it happens in the beginning of the month and we have to wait until the end of the month, the contractor could slow down or not go back out because they need an answer on whether they can proceed. Now, once it gets to 20%, all of those come back to the board and we do ask for reapproval no matter what because of those amounts. So it's because of those amounts. And so we set it below a quarter, and we did that intentionally probably right before we start doing a lot of our RAD transitions, but we implemented it because we knew we were going to be doing a lot of construction, and we wanted to continue that, to continue the construction part, to continue to move.
Right.
Great,
Okay.
thank you.
All righty. Any other questions on those resolutions? Hearing none, roll call, Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 528, reapproving authorization of the CEO of CMHA to execute contracts and official HUD documents with dates preceding the next available board meeting, in addition to emergency documents that affect the safety of employees, residents, CMHA property, and the community at large. All such action shall be presented to the board at the immediate subsequent board meeting.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr.
Aye.
Weedman. Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 5729 to adopt changes to the fiscal year 2022-2023 Housing Choice Voucher Administrative Plan effective July 1st, 2022 to June 30th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell.
Aye.
Mr. Weedman.
Aye.
Ms. Pelly.
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. Resolution 5730, adopting the proposed changes to the July 1st, 2022 through June 30th, 2022 admissions and continued occupancy policy. Is there a motion to accept?
Motion.
Thank you. A second, please. Got it.
Should that read 2023 instead of 22 for a June 30th?
Yeah.
Okay, so the motion notes that typo. All right, any other questions or discussion? Hearing none, roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman, Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
The chair votes aye, the resolution passes. And thank you for that correction. Now, during June and July 2022, fiscal year 2022, CMHA entered into 20 non-construction contracts with not to exceed maximum amounts below $100,000. There were 3 construction contracts below $100,000 in June and July. Per Resolution 5587, approved 8/31/2021, the CEO has authorization to execute and sign contracts in an amount not to exceed $100,000. So, are there any questions or discussion from the board on that detail?
Motion to adjourn.
Wow.
I
Okay.
have one, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
I just want to make one comment. There's a couple comments that the speakers made tonight. I want to make sure, assure the board between myself, Lisa, Mary, and Marquita, they provided responses to their concerns and questions. There was something brought up tonight that was not part of this session, but we will go back and have an additional meeting with the 3 speakers to see how we can improve on making sure the information is accessible. So we'll make sure that we have that meeting and take any of their suggestions centered around that. I just wanted to make sure I let you know that.
Yeah, I'm grateful for that comment. I think it is what it is. So let's see. Are there any questions or comments from board before we take a vote to adjourn? Very well. Roll call. Ms. Mitchell,
Aye.
Mr. Weedman,
Aye.
Ms. Pelly,
Aye.
Mr. O'Donnell.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The motion passes. The regular board meeting is adjourned. Thank you all. And again, I beg your pardon for, it must not have been my fault. There just has to be some explanation other than it was me, you know?
Thank you, guys. Everybody have a good night.
Thank you.